With YouTube demonetizing independent media, please consider becoming a patron today for just $1 per month. Link below. Hey, what's going on, everyone? My name is Matt Jarbo. This is the Mundane Matt channel. And when I think of Albert Einstein, I think of a brilliant theoretical physicist and former patent clerk who was made fun of in Family Guy for stealing people's ideas. But ultimately, no, I think of Einstein as this great, brilliant mind who really helped kind of lay the groundwork to help get us to where we are today. Right. And when I see this title here, was Einstein racist? It's not, my mind never went there at all. But apparently travel diaries of his revealed a shocking truth about the physicist's views on Asians. This is going to be bad, isn't it? So it says here that the reputation of world-renowned theoretical physicist and humanitarian Albert Einstein may be tainted in the wake of the recent published travel diaries that unveil his racist views, in particular on the Chinese. Published by Princeton University Press, the diary dates back to the 1920s, the time when the famous Austrian physicist was extensively traveling with his wife Elsa. In late 1922, they embarked on a 5.5-month journey to the Far East and the Middle East. They traveled to Singapore, Japan, briefly sojourned in Palestine, before concluding the whirlwind tour in Spain. That's a hell of a journey. 5.5 months going through all of those countries and those cultures. And if you are a person who is observant, right? If you are a person who's observant, which he clearly was, what you look at when you people watch might not necessarily be the best thing. And I think we tend, when we people watch, when we observe cultures, and I think this is still very relevant today, we tend to look for the most negative thing that we can, right? Because it kind of validates why we're doing it. You go to Disneyland and you watch the parents who have their children on leashes, or the parents who aren't maintaining their children at all and they're running amok, and you silently judge them, both of them. And you're not the only one that does this. Everyone does this. Everyone judges everyone else. But sometimes you write it down or you tweet it or whatever, and it gets you in some trouble, which is kind of where we find ourselves right here. In manuscripts, he apparently never intended to publish. Well, yeah, clearly, because he never did before he died. But leave it to Princeton University Press to go, this is in the public interest. Einstein shared his travel impressions about art, politics, science, philosophy, and ultimately racial equality. In a striking contradiction with his later statements, the Nobel Prize laureate wrote down his thoughts on racial stereotypes, insisting that some races not only could not equate to others, but were inferior to them. Holy shit! Einstein was a race realist. Oh, the alt-right are going to have fun with this. Now, he described the Chinese as industrious, filthy, obtuse, and a particular herd-like nation that, according to Einstein, posed threat to other nations, saying here, it would be a pity if these Chinese supplant all other races. For the likes of us, the mere thought is unspeakably dreary. Now, he could look at that from being the way that their culture is. Him coming from being in America, land of the free, going to China. It's very restricted, very different. He could look at that as being like a fearful attack on his particular way of life. And again, writing it down in very frank terms can come across as bad. And I'm not agreeing with what he said, by the way. I'm just trying to understand maybe the mindset he was in because of how our human condition is in regards to our internal dialogue, right? So one of the best ways I can use is the Google memo from last year, James Damore, right? When it came out, there was scathing attacks across STEM, right? Across all tech world. It's the Google memo. It's sexist. It's horrible misogyny. He must go. He must be abolished. And he was. But then earlier this year, I got the chance to go watch him speak at Portland State University, where he had an evolutionary biologist with him to explain what it was he was trying to do, because the terminology that he used was written more or less for engineers, using basically engineer speak, being frank and everything else that maybe didn't have the context that was needed in order to completely get his idea out there in the right way. And it never got the opportunity to get the right amount of context because of how fast it spread through Silicon Valley and then ultimately to the rest of the world. And one could argue that that might be very similar here. What he wrote down are not very good, but then again, later on, he had a different mindset, which could mean that he either A, wrote this stuff down, then had a change of heart down the road, or B, was really just a race realist. We have no idea. But at the same time, he's not here to be able to provide context or an explanation, or if anything, to some people, an apology, which is what people want. They want you to fall on the sword and admit you're sorry. You've done something wrong when maybe you have or haven't. You don't know. I'm just saying there's a lot that goes into that may be a reason why the situation is what it is. Now, with the entry going shockingly against Einstein's reputation as a civil rights advocate, the public release of the diary could have an effect, two black holes colliding. Born in Germany and of Jewish descent, Einstein condemned both the rise of the German National Socialist Party and later all forms of racism, defining it as a disease of white people. In 1946, during his speech at Lincoln University in Pennsylvania, focused on fighting racism, he claimed that being a Jew himself, he could understand and empathize how black people felt when they were victims of discrimination. Now, let's look at this like this. This diary came from 1922. 1922, after World War I, before the Second World War, before the atrocities of the death camps, before 6 million Jews were killed. Never mind the countless million other people who died in that war itself. And that could have had a radical change on Einstein and his thought process. He could have looked at that and been like, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I am completely wrong. And he had a change of heart and wanted to change his ways. His internal thoughts from when he was a younger man compared to his actions as an older adult show you that he could change, that he could grow, that he could wisen up, that he could not hold those beliefs anymore. However, none of that matters. None of that matters when you deal with the social regressive left, when you deal with these social justice warriors. They will look at this and they'll be like, he was a racist. And they'll call into question everything else he's done without ever having an opportunity to get context or to get an explanation or to get the truth. Because it is ultimately, in this particular case, post-truth. He's dead. He's been dead for a long damn time. So these diaries are going to give us an insight into his mind in 1922 when he was traveling through the Middle East and Asia. And that gives you an idea for where he was at then. But then look what he did later. Look how he changed things 2 decades later after the Second World War, after the word genocide was created as a way to describe what happened during the Second World War in those death camps, in those concentration camps, at the hands of the Nazi Party. Something to take into consideration, something to look at, maybe something to think about. I don't know. I'm just giving you my opinion. That's what I do here. That's how I would approach it. Right? Was it Hanlon's razor? Never assigned malice where stupidity could easily be assigned? Now, anyway, Zeev Rosencrantz, the senior editor of the published diaries, told The Guardian that Einstein's diary entries on the alleged intellectual inferiority of the Japanese, Chinese, and Indians, stemming from the biological background, are definitely not understated and can be viewed as racist. So maybe at the time they were. But then again, a scientist is going to look at things in the most base possible terms, and they're going to write them down in the most base possible terms. And they're going to look at that from that perspective. And that is going to be cold and callous and calculated. And it's going to probably be mean because they're understanding it in the way that their thought process puts it out there. But in today's society, in current year, it's viewed as racist. Back then, we had a different time. It was a different time. It was an absolutely different time. Racism, yes, ran rampant in this country with the Chinese, the African Americans, and the Irish, as well as, the Native Americans before that. There's been a lot of problems in this country. There's been a lot of problems in this country. But the idea there essentially is that stereotypes exist, preconceived notions exist, wrong thoughts exist, the ability to change, to grow, and to be better always exists. And so to attack him now, that he can't defend himself, that he can't explain himself, or sit there and go, I was a young, stupid idiot, and look at how I changed my mind, shows you the precise mindset and mentality of the people that are going to be trying to call for his reputation and his legacy to be tarnished. So one of the reasons why there's a big pushback against the identity politics of the left. Because no matter what you do, they will use it against you. They will use it against you in a way to destroy your legacy. If Einstein was alive, they would be calling for him to be fired from whatever position he was in, no matter what his age is, no matter whatever else he's done. Because that is what they do. And it sucks because I'm a left-leaning individual and I always hate having to call this crap out because you guys keep doing it. Now it finishes up here by saying, with many people looking up to Einstein as both a moral role model and one of the greatest physicists of all time, who introduced the theory of general relativity, the revelations of what Rosencrantz called the clear hallmark of racism could now tarnish the popular science icon. I think anyone who is in science would have a solid understanding of exactly where his mindset was coming from, or perhaps how he phrased things, how he put things. Again, I could be wrong, and I want to make that abundantly clear. I could, in fact, be wrong. He could be a die-in-the-cast racist at that time, right? Because he's talking about some race realism stuff there. Like I said, the alt-right's going to have a damn field day on that one. Expect there to be lots of videos about that. But in the meantime, look at things from the perspective of a man, younger man, and then his thoughts and opinions 25 years later, and his actions decades later. Can people change? Should they be given the opportunity to change? I think they should. And that's one of the reasons why I'm not a social justice warrior. But that being said, I just want to, those are my thoughts on this whole subject matter. What do you guys think about this? Let me know in the comments below. My name is, of course, Matt Jarbo. This is the Monday Matt channel. If you guys haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. Check back often for more content from me. In fact, if you want to support the channel, Patreon's a great way to do it, or just watch more videos, which you can totally do right now.